Today, we are becoming obsessed with actually taking care of yourself and checking in and slowing down before you burn out. If you've been around for a while, you know this is something we talk about a lot. And so I'm so excited to introduce you to today's guest, Dr. Taylor Smeenk. She is the CEO and founder of Empact Wellness, a chiropractic and certified functional medicine practitioner. Drawing from her own experience with injury and illness, Taylor built Empact Wellness as a sanctuary for healing and longevity. Her approach to health is rooted in a deep commitment to discovering the root cause of health challenges and offering personalized, integrative solutions that support the body, mind, and spirit. Driven by a mission to create a world where optimal health is accessible to all, she fosters a community rooted in compassion, resilience, and self-advocacy, where true, lasting healing thrives. And if you follow the media at all, I feel like these are such hot topics of like self-advocacy is the number one thing you need in a healthcare system. And I've stopped going to the GP I was going to and started going to a functional practitioner because I didn't feel like when I would advocate for myself, it went anywhere.
Absolutely.
So we're going to get into that. But Taylor, thank you so much for coming on the Becoming Obsessed podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I absolutely love the mission of this podcast, and everything you've been talking about is very aligned with what I'm currently going through myself. So I think this will be a really awesome conversation today.
Well, let's jump in. And I want to know how you got on the path of functional medicine and where your journey started and how you've gotten to this point.
Absolutely. So as sort of interluded in my bio, I did have my own injuries and illnesses that I was dealing with. I was a very active child and teenager, had a lot of sports injuries. I've had 7 concussions. And that's sort of how I got into the chiropractic world. And I'm so grateful that my initial introduction to chiropractic was with functional doctors. So they're not just the crack and go type. It was a lot of education, a lot of nutrition recommendations if we're talking about concussion recovery, supplements, as well as acupuncture, manual therapy, fascial release. And then further to that as well, sort of going down the deep functional medicine dive. And so that's really how I got started in it all. I had some really fantastic mentors early in my career and when I was going through chiropractic school, where I was working as a health coach with a functional medicine doctor. So I learned so much in such a short period of time, not only becoming a chiropractor and doing the manual work, but also the functional medicine work as a health coach, and then quickly becoming certified myself as soon as I was a licensed practitioner. Yeah, so it really was a huge sort of personal introduction into the field. And then even further to that, my family, sort of helping them advocate for themselves and sort of being a guide in their healing process as well. Yeah.
I have also had a few too many concussions. And so I know how trying that journey can be. And I also have a family member who had what at first everyone was saying was a concussion, but was really like a brain and spine, like kind of multi-placed injury that they're still struggling with like years later. And so it is a really hard place to advocate for yourself when you're like in the deep of it and your brain is not working. It's like your brain is injured and now you have to try to advocate for yourself and figure out kind of the best path forward for yourself. And so I can imagine how having a person or a team of people that are really actually helping you along that and making it easier and you're seeing results can be so impactful.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you were licensed and became a practitioner, did you work with another clinic or did you start your own business?
It all sort of happened simultaneously. I graduated and became licensed in the middle of COVID. And so the start of my career was a lot different than the start of most other careers. And the initial clinic group that I was working with, there wasn't as much room for me. I guess I would say that the demand sort of wasn't there. The restrictions were so vast and I wasn't really able to establish my practice within that clinic. So I covered a maternity leave simultaneous to toying with the idea of starting my own thing. I started initially seeing friends of friends from my parents' basement when I was still living at home, like right out of graduation because that was steamrolling so quickly. And I went down the path of, okay, I think I can really do this. Before I went to chiropractic school, there was 2 years between my undergraduate degree, and I was the office manager of a massive sports medicine clinic. So I knew how to run a clinic and quickly decided I can for sure do this for myself.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. I know personally with this podcast, I talk so much about self-care while being ambitious and living a life that you love. And I often will feel the pressure of, am I actually living out what I'm talking about? How is that side of things for you? Do you ever start to feel that pressure, or do none of us are perfect when it comes to taking care of ourselves. And so I just am so curious how you navigate taking care of yourself while running a business that is all about taking care of yourself.
Yeah, that was a huge learning curve for me. I was exposed to a lot of entrepreneurs in my family, but if you had have asked me during chiropractic school if I was going to run my own clinic, especially to the magnitude that I am right now, I would have said absolutely not. So initially, I was not taking good care of myself. And I sort of learned really quickly. There were some really close people in my life who would see me at the end of my workday and reflect back to me, you look drained. And it was like the life was sucked out of me. And so I had to learn. I'm a very energetic, intuitive person, and I'm very empathetic. And so I would take on a lot of stuff for my patients that I didn't realize I was doing. So that was the very first thing, was learning how to block my energy. Not that I wasn't, of course, serving and giving, but to not take on any of the negative energy that was coming into my treatment room and into my clinic. That was definitely the first thing. And the most powerful thing that I've done is it's come on a journey of really the self-worth and self-love, where I have to give to myself first. So that's a non-negotiable for me. Like the first part of every single day is just about me and giving myself whatever I feel I need that day, because then I can show up and be completely present and fully of service to everybody, not only my patients, but also my team members. It was a learning curve for sure. But now that I've settled into that, I don't know if you touched on this, but there is no such thing as perfect. And the biggest comfort for me has actually being more vulnerable, especially online on social media, because it has been reflected back to me by quite a few people. Like, when they meet me in person, if they've only seen my website and done a brief look at my Instagram, then they meet me in person. They're like, whoa, you're so down to earth. You're just such a raw person. Because I think the way, my titles and the way I'm presented online seems so like packaged with a bow. And I'm really not like that at all. So I'm doing my best to try to show up more vulnerably and authentically, because like some mornings I literally just lay in bed and like meditate. It's not always this perfect routine.
It is so funny how there's this level of being online and being a business owner that has to be a little bit polished. And you can show up authentically, like in Instagram stories, some Instagram posts, but really it's like your website is such a little screenshot of the whole of you. And so then when you do meet people and it's like, okay, yeah, I can see this, but you are a lot maybe less intimidating than your titles, or you are a lot more relatable than the perfect photo on Instagram that you did with the photo shoot and the team and everything. You've had some posts on social lately that I relate to so heavy of just slowing down. And this is a phase I'm into. And I think the collective zeitgeist is more people are catching on to this. Like, you can't just keep pushing. And if you keep pushing, eventually, God, the universe, something is going to slow you down. And so learning to really slow down ourselves before it's forced. But what are some of those early almost signals that you've noticed in yourself that are like, okay, I've been taking care of myself. I've been having my mornings. And then all of a sudden it's like, there's these signals that it's like, okay, maybe I'm going back to my old ways, or back to that really stressful hustling, taking on other people's energy. What are the signals in your own life and that you see in clients?
For sure. In my own life, I've become so present that I'm the observer of my own world and my own thoughts. And so I love this question, and I have like very specific examples because it's happening to me sort of presently as we speak this week, especially. So I have been experiencing a lot of anxiety for probably a week and a half now, like waking up in panic. It's mostly in the morning. Once I'm in the flow of my day and serving, then I feel amazing. Nothing can stop me. But it's almost like my nervous system is constantly calibrating. Like, what energy are we on today? And that happens when we go through an up leveling, especially quite quickly. So one of the biggest things I've actually noticed about myself, aside from the anxiety, is the outfit choices. So I think it was on Monday this week, I got dressed and I was going to work and I was feeling so anxious. Like I wanted to throw up. I was like crying on my way to work. And I looked at myself and I was like, whoa. This is an outfit I wore so much last year, and I haven't worn this outfit in quite some time. And this represents that version of me that I no longer am. So I was like energetically drawn to this outfit choice that was a smaller version of me energetically. So that was a huge thing recently I picked up on.
I relate to that a ton, and I've never thought about outfits in that way necessarily. Actually, what I wear is such a signal of, am I actually taking the time in the morning to take care of myself, do my hair, put mascara on, pick an outfit out, and I have my favorite pair of sweats. And sometimes I literally will wear those and dress them up and still make it into a fit. But the days that I don't like get out of bed and go do my morning routine in the bathroom, it's like they never start. It's this, what comes first, the chicken or the egg of, am I not getting ready because I don't feel it? Or am I not feeling it because I didn't get ready? And I think there's a little bit of, yeah, I'm not doing it because I'm like feeling very lethargic or feeling hormonal, feeling whatever. And I don't really want to tackle the day, so I won't prepare myself to. But those days I feel that way and I do it anyway, it's okay. Then we got over those morning feelings and now we can tackle the day. And half the time it's an amazing day and you find things to be excited and grateful for. But just those moments, okay, what am I drawn to this morning to wear? Am I wearing something that's more this like protective, like armor that I can retreat behind, or something that makes me feel powerful?
Yes. Totally. Yeah, I love what you just said there. It's almost similar to going to the gym. Nobody wants to go to the gym and do that workout and get all sweaty. But as soon as you're in the middle of it and at the end, you're always, I'm so glad I did that.
I've been walking a lot. And finally this month, it is currently June 12th at like 11 a.m. And I, before even having 1,000 steps today, am still averaging 10K a day. I'll hit my 10K today, but this is what I'm proud of myself for lately, is actually just getting the steps in every single day, even if I've ran a couple times, but even if it's just a walk, the little bit of extra effort in can go a long way and can really help snap us out of those moments.
Definitely.
You said something in an Instagram post on slowing down of, we kind of now have talked about the signals of like, okay, here's some personal signals. Here's what some people might see for themselves. I know the sleeping one to me is a huge signal. You mentioned that, like how I sleep, how I get ready for the day. When we start to experience those signals or start to feel like something's off, or we miss the signals and we're just like full blown in a breakdown, what are those first steps or the routines you have that help you to slow down and come back and ground yourself?
I love the sauna. Another signal for me personally is that I feel like I have to do more. And that is really a mirror for no, you need to do less. And so usually that's what I reach for first. Instead of just sort of taking pause, I find myself being like, okay, what can I do to create rest? And so I'll go in the sauna, and for a long time, I noticed myself being like, okay, well, we're just sitting in the sauna now. Maybe we should meditate. Let's do some lymphatic drainage. And I had this aha moment that that's still doing something. You're not just like just be in the sauna. That is already doing something. And yeah, I think that for sure, I really communicate with my close circle and try to let them know where I'm at. And I will cancel plans, like sometimes, nothing major, but if I feel that I need more rest on a weekend, I will intentionally create that space for myself. I think the biggest thing I do is I create space to allow for rest with such a busy schedule, I just have to block off and say, do not book me during these hours. I don't book myself during those hours, and really create that space for rest.
Taylor, that is so real. The feeling of, okay, I'm going to rest. But while I'm resting, let me do something really productive to help myself. I talk about this so much, but our worth being connected to that productivity and the checking things off a list. I recorded a solo episode a few months ago where I was having a day. I was in a hotel in Arizona. It was a work day. I had watched 2 movies. I'd barely got anything done. And I was like, okay, I am going to go on a walk because I need to get out of the hotel room. I need to stop, just do something. And on the walk, I was thinking about how important it is to create rest and allow myself to have this day where I didn't feel it. It wasn't going to happen. That's okay. I'm doing a walk, whatever. And in the same breath that I had that thought, I was like, but what if I start doing tapping? And what if I start doing all these other health practices that maybe will help me regulate so I have less of these days? And I'm like, that's literally the opposite of what I was just thinking. Yeah. The feeling of, okay, let's rest, then goes to let's take care of ourselves, which is, again, let's do it in a very active way and not just creating space, creating pause and a moment to breathe.
Totally. I think too, I've been doing a lot of energetic work between the masculine and feminine energies. And I know for myself personally, and this has been reflected back to me by my business advisor as well, when I am overwhelmed, the doing is masculine, and that is my comfort zone. I know I can get a bunch of shit done, but the being is the feminine. And when you're an entrepreneur as a woman, you're often in that masculine energy a lot of the time. And it can be difficult on your own to allow yourself to take that time and space to rest and recalibrate and truly be in that feminine energy. And once you learn that, or once I learned that, everything flows so much smoother because you allow yourself to receive, you allow your nervous system to catch up. And yeah, the flow I've noticed since really putting effort into that intentional feminine slowdown. And I think as a woman, to me at least, it helps to frame it that way for myself.
I agree. I'm the same way. I grew up being very I can do anything a man can do, yes, and sexism will never affect me. Yes. And I think so many of us, it's if I'm going to grow a business, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to make it happen. And it's not that that's a lie. Yeah, you can make it happen if your only goal is a certain metric of success. But for most of us, that's not the end game. That's not why we start a business. It's not to build the biggest thing in the world and work our whole life doing it. And for me, I really have learned to accept both the masculine and the feminine probably in the last 3 years. And it's only in the last 8 months that I've started to see outcomes, if you will, from the feminine energy of, yes, doing the work, but doing the work at a pace that's this needs to get done, but we're not going to do everything all the time and overwork. And then allowing that space and that kind of breathing room for ideas to finally arrive, like this podcast. And my business partner we've been building an app for 1.5 years. And in the beginning of that journey of building an app, it did not matter how many people we spoke to, how much customer market research we did, how many conversations we had, how many journaling. We could have done everything and still never arrived at the answer of what the final product needs to be, because it just takes time of do the motion, but don't worry about not having the outcome. The outcome will come, and sometimes it takes years.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like we've gotten into a lot of the things that I'm always okay, how do you balance ambition and self-care? I want to get in a little bit more of the work that you do. And if somebody is unfamiliar with functional medicine or how it differs from traditional Western hospital clinic medicine, I'd love to get more insight in what your kind of philosophy on health is and the care that you provide.
So my first response is, I think the biggest difference is that the question we as functional medicine practitioners ask is why. So instead of all of your symptoms equal this title of a diagnosis, and we're going to manage those symptoms with these medications or strategies. The key there is that they're just managing your symptoms. It's not, okay, we're going to ask why you have those symptoms and then treat the why in order to address that root cause so that you then no longer have those symptoms or complaints anymore. I think that at the most basic level is how I like to explain it. And further than that, I think that our traditional Western medicine approaches the body in silos. So you go to your respirologist, your gastroenterologist, your neurologist, all of these different specialties for the different parts and systems of the body. But unfortunately, not only is the system not communicating effectively enough together, they're missing so much by putting those systems into silos. Our hormones, for example, are a direct reflection of how every other system in the body is working. And so if you go to see a hormone doctor that's only focusing on your hormones, that's not asking why your hormones are off, they're going to manage your hormones. But if they're not addressing the root cause of that, you'll never have full resolve. You're always sort of chasing that diagnosis or those symptoms.
I've always been anti Band-Aid. Like you're saying, I don't want a pill or medicine to manage the symptom. I want to figure out how to make it stop or how to naturally help with it. And I think in the last couple of years, what I've learned so much is, or heard people speak about, is how a lot of issues come from inflammation, but a lot of inflammation comes from trauma that's not being processed in the body. And so how does this look in a practical sense when we're not dealing with these individual silos, but we're trying to get a full picture of, okay, what is the why? And is it something that's physical, or is that coming back to something that's maybe emotional, or how do we start to connect those dots?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought this up. And I love the way that you framed that question because, everything has an energetic frequency and our body stores the trauma that we experience in different ways. And it's perpetuated by often our thought processes and the way we're thinking about and speaking about ourselves. I can give an example, and this is one of the more basic examples that I've witnessed this in person. From a mechanical standpoint, I had been treating this woman with chronic neck pain. She had a chronic kink in the right side of her neck. And, we threw everything at it. We were doing manual therapy. We were doing acupuncture with electricity, without electricity. We were doing manipulations. I was, working all the way into her jaw, her shoulder, like the whole upper sling system, her rib cage. And it would sort of improve, but it would always come back. And in building a strong rapport and relationship, she eventually opened up to me that the neck pain actually started when she had discovered that her husband had been unfaithful and they were going through a divorce. And she had been curled up in bed in the same position, crying for 3 months straight. And that's sort of where that kink in her neck began. And so I explained to her sort of exactly what you just explained about when trauma happens to us, it is stored in our body and how that can elicit itself in a physical manifestation, whether it's that mechanical component or a physical disease. There's so many ways that comes out in our bodies. And I had explained to her that I was trained in Reiki and NLP and some energetic techniques. And I asked if she would be open to receiving that type of work on top of the manual work. It wasn't that we weren't going to still address the mechanical issues, but let's sort of add in that next layer so that we can really get deep to that energetic trauma layer. And so we did some sessions where I combined Reiki with acupuncture, and she doesn't have that neck pain anymore. It was 3, maybe 5 total sessions that we did those combo therapies, and it's never returned since then.
That's amazing. I am curious what you would recommend or advise for people who, I know you're based in Burlington outside of Toronto, Canada, for somebody who is either going to their typical doctor or a functional medicine practitioner, what kind of advice can we give people to help advocate for themselves and to help maybe vet who they're going to and feel comfortable that they are working with somebody who's kind of looking at the whole picture, that they feel like they can be in good hands? Because that's something for me personally. It's like dating, finding a therapist. It's just so much work to find somebody you can trust. And then, especially, I feel like a lot of people feel burned by different parts of the healthcare industry. So, how can people kind of come back and start to advocate for themselves and kind of break down this barrier that they might have?
I think this would be a two-part answer. The one would be in communicating with your GP. Regardless of the response from your GP, it's really important to state and communicate what you are looking for. Even if they don't agree with you, if you say, listen, I'm here for my acne, but I actually think my acne is really related to the gut issues that you've been telling me are IBS for so long, and the joint pain I've been experiencing. If they don't agree with you, then you know that they maybe aren't the right person, but at least you have established that communication where they now know what your expectations are. And it would then still be up to you to say, I'm going to look elsewhere. Like, yes, please give me the referral if you think it would be good to see the specialist that you're recommending, but I'm also letting you know that I am going to look outside of your network because I really strongly feel that this is the case for me. I think that it's really important then beyond that to find practitioners who are so secure with their offerings that they are willing to work with other practitioners. So if you're doing a consult or a discovery call and the practitioner is saying, I can do this all for you, like don't talk to your doctor, I think that's a red flag. I think it's important to be open to communicating. Even if I think that I do have all of the answers for you, I'm more than happy to talk to your GP. Let me help educate them. I'm more than happy to help you find a therapist that fits for you. More than happy to talk to anyone in your network that you've already established a good working relationship with, because those are people, if you have somebody that you already trust in your network, the worst thing that I could do is discredit them right off the bat. So I think those are a couple of red flags, and then green flags of vetting out somebody. And, also knowing that healing takes time. So if somebody is promising you that they're going to fix all of your issues in like 3 appointments, I think that's also a red flag. I think the conversation of this is going to take some time for us to work through this together, and just giving that reassurance that it is a partnership in care and we're going to work together on this, those are really big green flags.
Yeah. Something that's coming up for me too is why I started going to a functional medicine practitioner. Partially is because I started to see these early signs in my life of feeling really fatigued or feeling like my hormones were imbalanced. And it wasn't that I necessarily was at this huge problem yet, but I didn't want to allow it to get there. And so if you're somebody listening and you're like, I don't know that I need to go see anybody, just watch to see how can we be actually proactive and keep it that way and keep you feeling good, instead of waiting and then having this kind of time where you're like, okay, now I don't feel good. Now something's wrong. And now I have to find somebody to work with.
Yes. One of my favorite sayings is your body whispers before it screams. And it's becoming so in tune with yourself that you pick up on those things. Thinking back to the question you asked me earlier, another thing I notice in myself, if I'm operating too much from stress or overdrive, my acne will show up again. I used to have really awful hormonal acne, like all along my chin and jawline. And if I get my period and I also have like a breakout, my skin's not going to blow up again, but I'll get like a little pimple. Then I know, okay, I probably wasn't eating great over the past couple of months. That's probably because I was too stressed. I wasn't prioritizing myself enough. Okay, that's a clear sign. That's a whisper that something needs to change, so that we then don't go down like this massive cascade again.
Yeah. I want to get into, and again, feel free not to answer this one, but when you first start working with a new client comes to your clinic, I'm just curious, Is there hesitancy towards functional medicine? Is it kind of like I've tried everything and now it's like just trying to find a fix? What is some of the common like starting places people have when they find you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I always do discovery calls with people. So before you book a consultation and start sort of paying for services, we always do a discovery call. And I would say for the most part, I see maybe three buckets of people. The first would be the person who has seen other functional practitioners before, probably worked with a naturopath, tried a lot of supplements, tried a lot of different things, and never quite gotten the level of healing that they need. And those are the people that I do the most nervous system work with. Obviously, we still do the comprehensive testing. We still figure out their individual root cause and look at objective data. It's a lot of education and conversation over the importance of our nervous system and unlearning thought patterns, unlearning habitual patterns, relearning new ones, and integrating our nervous system into that. So that's the one bucket. The second bucket would be people who aren't quite familiar with functional medicine. There certainly is more hesitancy with that bucket of people. They're obviously aware of functional medicine. They've probably heard about it from a friend or on a podcast or on social media, but they aren't quite sure what it entails. And a lot of the time it's, okay, so you're just giving me a bunch of supplements and like you're telling me not to eat gluten. And it's way, way, way more than that. So there's those conversations, and that requires a little bit more education, often multiple discovery calls to make sure that we are a good fit to work together. And then the last bucket of people, I call them the optimizers. They're generally healthy, maybe their body is whispering to them in a couple of ways, but, they feel really good day to day. And they're really looking for that preventative optimization plan and package. And those are the eager people. Those are like, I'm ready to go. They're like, can we start yesterday? It takes a little bit less education and discussion from them.
This is so helpful. And one reason I love this podcast is I get to actually ask people the things I want to know. In the last year, I'm like, okay, I know that there's preventative ways to do this. And I know that there's probably a better, more healthy way than just taking a pill for feeling a little bit tired. Like, I'm not at a place where I have these huge things, but I'm also not always where I want to be. And so it's helpful to just get an idea of this whole process. And I hope that the people listening feel more comfortable with functional medicine as well too, and just advocating for yourself. But let's get into my last series of questions here. We've talked about slowing down. I want to know when it comes to play and incorporating more fun in, but really outside of work, what are you currently obsessed with?
I love this question. I'm currently obsessed with all outdoor activities because it's finally nice weather here in Canada.
When I was up there like a few weeks ago, all we had was rain.
It was
so
awful.
I'm happy you guys are finally getting good weather.
Felt so bad for all of you. I'm like, this is your experience. Okay, yeah. So I love to golf. I play in a women's league once a week, and I make an effort to get out with other friends sort of outside of the workspace. On top of that, at least once. I just love sports and sort of being active. So whether it's going for a walk by the lake, rollerblading, playing tennis, pickleball, I just love to sort of be involved and active with people that way. So that's what I like to do with other people. For myself, in finding joy, this is actually so random for me. I think even like my best friends, if they hear this, I'll be like, what? You do that? I love having my own dance parties.
Yes.
Yeah. Like I'll just blast music in my apartment and dance around. And it's such a freeing experience, especially actually experiencing anxiety a lot recently. I find sort of moving in that way, just like freely allowing your body to flow, is so powerful and empowering. So that I find a lot of joy with. It's the people, I think, and then the activities.
When it comes to almost the more, I don't want to say like educational, but kind of educational side or even entertainment side, what is filling your cup? I know you've mentioned having business advisors, and we actually met at a summit for women in business. And so what is filling your cup lately?
I am such an advocate for having coaches, like being a practitioner myself. I cannot think objectively about myself. And so I have a personal trainer that I work with just once a week, but like he keeps me on track. I have a business coach. I have a mental health coach, like a traditional therapist. I also have a Reiki practitioner. I also have an NLP practitioner. So it sort of depends on what I'm going through, what I'm experiencing, and what I feel I need. And what's filling my cup the most is how these people and things are flowing to me. I'm receiving them. I don't know how else to explain it. But instead of me being like, okay, I'm feeling anxious, like, who do I book an appointment with? It's sort of just aligning itself. And they're reflecting really important things back to me, like, drink water, speak to yourself kindly. Yeah. So again, I think it's just the people that I'm surrounding myself with are really aligned.
It is so funny how we can know all the things to do and then get caught in the motion of doing and forget to do the things to take care of ourselves.
Yes.
Well, Dr. Taylor, how can people listening work with you, connect with you?
Absolutely. So my website personally for the functional medicine services is drtaylorsmeenk.com. And those services are not exclusive to like local in Burlington. I do work with a lot of people in the States and outside of the States. I have someone in Scotland, for example, Puerto Rico. So I love reaching that international global scale in that perspective. And my Instagram is Dr. Taylor Smeenk. And then my local clinic in Burlington, Ontario is Empact Wellness. Our website empactwellness.com, and on Instagram at Empact Wellness.
Thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge and just what you do for yourself as well with us. If you are still listening and this was helpful for you, I know I have so many great takeaways. Send this to a friend, post it on your story, give us a 5-star review. It helps get this in front of more people so they can build a life that they're obsessed with as well. All right, y'all, let's go get obsessed.